Hi everybody, it's Grace. Welcome to Eating Peace this week. I'm traveling. As you can tell, I'm not in my kitchen, the place I usually am. This is probably a better backdrop for videos, but it's a hotel room. And I thought I'd speak today something that occurred to me last night to share with you all, and that is looking at our mindful thoughts, really, about hunger and fullness. Now, I occasionally speak about this, but this can be really, really interesting in your own personal work when it comes to understanding yourself and eating and the cues for hunger and the cues for fullness, is to just actually look at what your own judgments are about those two states of being. So having bodies, we have the opportunity to experience hunger and fullness. In fact, there's a natural flow that happens with that, just like tides going in and out and things blossoming and then fading away. It's a very common pattern in nature to have a fullness and then an emptiness and the back and forth, day and night, opposites, duality. So here we are with hunger and fullness in the great big scheme of things. When it comes to actually eating, blending or making contact in a way, taking in something from what appears to be outside of us, outside of these bodies, taking it in and joining with it is really a principle of eating, where then everything gets chemically and scientifically merged together to give fuel and do whatever it's doing in there. I am not a biologist. But it's so interesting to watch our perceptions of hunger and fullness and to see where they are painful, stressful, where they bother and disturb us, and actually take that to inquiry, even if it's a mindful exercise about the physical experience of being in the body. So, these two points, how to do this. One thing I do in my Eating Peace retreat with people, most of the time, sometimes we don't get to this exercise, there's so many fabulous exercises, but to really consider the state of hunger. Let's just begin with that first. Imagine being so extremely hungry that you haven't eaten maybe for, 2 or 3 days, and whatever that experience is of hunger, or it could be 6 hours, whenever it would kick in that you'd be having symptoms that you're calling hunger, where the need for food or fuel or eating becomes really strong, actually at a deep physical level, apparently. But everyone has remembered maybe that experience at some point in their lives where they were someplace, and maybe extremely rare. Many of us are blessed with the experience of having that be extremely rare. But maybe you've been on a diet even. It was self-imposed somehow, or based on your schedule, or based on something that went on in your life. You know what it feels like to be very, very hungry. Rumbling stomach, maybe a headache, a sense of some sort of discomfort or weakness in the body, a longing to have food in your system, a sense of sleepiness. Whatever it is for you, sometimes people think, I'm not really sure what hunger is like. I haven't allowed myself to experience it much. I'm really afraid of it. What's odd is, although I had been so good at resisting hunger and holding hunger and thinking that I was so strong and powerful to be, running cross country when I was in high school or early college, and hungry, that there was some sort of power in it. It would also be very, very uncomfortable, and it wasn't relaxing. It kind of had an anxiety-producing experience to it all. So the experience of hunger, really to sit with it and find a moment in time when you had that, or you imagine having that, and then write about it. Answer the questions that are on the Judge Your Neighbor worksheet when it comes to the work. Why are you disturbed at this moment? Let the innermost part of you write your answers. Why is this upsetting to you? What do you want if you were demanding and had a tantrum and were screaming and having a fit? What advice would you give food or this experience of hunger, that feeling of hunger? What do you think it should or shouldn't be doing? It should get away, it should disappear. I should be able to overcome it. But just look at this hunger and how you feel about it in itself, the sensation of it. What do you need in order to be happy in this moment? Can you be happy when you're hungry? Or do you think you can't be? Describe the hunger. Make a list. What is it that you never ever want to experience, if at all? If you had your own way and you made the rules, what is it that you don't ever want to experience? Write that down. All right. I would say, in the past, a little less trouble with hunger because I also associated hunger with being a good person. Very good, very demure and proper, and not in my greedy self and not in the binge mode. It was just like, at least I was in control and I wasn't eating, which was a worse crime. Sort of interesting to see the mind's perceptions about that experience of hunger. Well, at least it's better than fullness. At least I'm being good. At least I'm doing something right. These can be very questionable, very, very stressful thoughts, and not true thoughts. They're really kind of lies we're speaking over and over again to ourselves, especially when they're stressful. Then it's not really true. So, same observation, looking, investigating, and exploring the experience of fullness, which I thought was awful. Worse than hunger. Being stuffed, being so, so full. If I sit and remember being really, really stuffed, just so painful. Sometimes people have this experience at night because that's when all their sort of emotional feelings and the world is very quiet, and so the voices within become louder, and maybe you eat, out of anxiety or fear or nervousness or sadness or loneliness. Emotional eating comes to a height in a way because you're not distracted by daytime activities. And then there's fullness and the terrible self-destructive thoughts, and can be very cruel. So actually let them come out and write them down. In this state of fullness, why are you disturbed? Why is that troubling? What's difficult about this state of full, stuffed? What do you want instead? How do you want this state, this experience of fullness, to change? What do you think should or shouldn't be happening? Often those thoughts, once again, are directed to the self. What do you need in order to be happy in this moment? Is it possible to be happy when you're stuffed and full like that? Can you find compassion, forgiveness, gentleness with yourself, or not? What do you need in order to be happy? Staying with the stressed out mind because you want to get it on paper. And then make a list of what you believe fullness is, how you describe it. It was just devastating for me. It can lead to no good at any time. That was my rock solid thought. It's just like a terrible state or condition. And finally, the last question, what is it that you never ever want to experience again? And write that down. I just don't ever want to be this stuffed again at my own hand, or whatever comes out. Everything can be investigated, what you actually write, the words you pick, what you choose, what it is you must be assuming in order to write this thought down in the first place, what that belief means. And you can look and sit with those beliefs slowly with the work. What if you are not entirely right about your ideas about hunger and fullness? What if there's more behind them than immediately meets the eye, or the beliefs you've had locked in place about, goodness, moral goodness and moral badness, which I had so mixed in with hunger and fullness? What if that's not true? Who would you be without these very, very stressful, painful thoughts? One thing I find in the most simple way is, without all those beliefs about hunger, the state of hunger, or the state of fullness, I can move on into my whatever's next. I can relax and not have this condemnation towards the self, or food, or diets, or I did it again, or oh no, I need to panic. The whole nervous system can relax without these kinds of thoughts directing their attention on this state of physical being. And also, I can feel the self-compassion. I can also wonder then about what was going on that caused something to go kind of into an extreme level. Great hunger or great fullness. What was happening? What else was going on? If I don't have all those rules and ideas and regulations and meanness about those states of being, I can wonder about, well, how did I get there? What was going on? What was happening? Oh, honey, why were you letting yourself get so hungry when you have food available to you? Why were you letting yourself get so stuffed when there's other things you can find to nurture yourself besides food and eating? All right, so begin there with the inquiry, and who knows what can happen when you have more openness towards these states of being and actually use the 4 questions and turn it all around to see. You'll find it's in my thinking. So if I hate hunger or I hate fullness, it's really I hate my thinking about hunger. I hate my thinking about fullness. In nature, in nature out there in the wilds of, let's say, the savannah of Africa, a lion attacks a gazelle and eats the whole thing and is just loaded with food and then rests for a long time. And it's not saying you ate too much. What's wrong with you? What's going on? There aren't emotional reasons for doing that. It's just acceptance of satiation and resting. And then when it's moved to get up, the animal begins to get up and go to hunt again. And there's rest and there's movement, and all fit into the scheme of things in a really peaceful, comfortable way. What a wonderful way to live for yourself, too, when it comes to hunger and fullness. More in the middle place, not in the extremes. But studying those extremes are what help you understand how to be in the middle place. All right, let me know how it goes. Lots of love.